Okay, so am I audible? Have I started streaming? I think I have. Just let me check. Um, right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to this third session of strategy discussion. I am Rishi Mittal, CAT 2019 Percentiler, and we'll be carrying forward the discussion that we have been having in the last two sessions. In the first session, we went through the QA part completely, the studying part, solving part, followed by the analyzing part. What is the strategy that one needs to take? What is the mindset? What are the attempting strategy, etc., etc., everything. So, in case you have not gone through the first session, do go through that. And if you have any doubts regarding quantitative ability after, you know, attending that session, I'm not audible. Am I audible? Harsh, am I audible now? Am I audible? Harsh, am I audible now? Hello? Yeah, I think I am. Perfect. So, check your speakers. I am audible. My mic is working. Check your speakers, Harsh. Yes, it is working. Correct. So, yeah. So going forward, just let me check. Yeah, perfect. So it seems to be working. Harsh, you can check on your end. So as I was saying that the first session was on quantitative ability, and we completely went through the attempting strategy, what all to study from the mocks that have been done so far, how to attempt the mocks, how to attempt the CAT exam finally, how to analyze the quantitative ability section, how to do different kind of questions. All of that was discussed in pretty much a lot of detail. Following that, in the second session, we went through the DILR part completely. How to crack that section again, how to analyze that, how to attempt the exam, what should be the strategy, what can be the pitfalls, how to maximize your score, how much time to attempt, everything in detail was covered. So I would request if any of the viewers that are here have not seen the first session, go back, have a look at them for the quantitative ability and the DILR strategies end to end from my side. Coming down to the third section, that is the VERC. So I will be taking two sessions on VRC because this is so vast that covering all of it in one session would be a little difficult. So this particular session will be on RC and anything and everything about it, and I'll also be discussing practice RC and how I would go about it. So I hope I'm audible now. Can anyone confirm in chat if I'm audible? YouTube chat or Unacademy session chat. Can someone please confirm if I'm audible? Yes, perfect, perfect, Harsh. So let's go on then. So I think now you know what has been covered so far in the two sessions and what to expect from the forthcoming sessions. In today's session and the next session, we'll be covering VRC. Today we'll starting with RC, and then the next session will be on VA part. And the fifth session will be on a summary of these sessions along with what to be the last mile strategy and what to do after CAT. So basically that is what I have planned to do. So starting with today's session. So RC is what I'm going to discuss as I told you, and what I believe is that RC tests your patience more than anything. You need to be patient and you need to deal with it tactically. Now, that's why I always start with RC rather than VA. Also, I think attempting VA before will lead to LRDI straight after RC. If I complete all the VA first and then go to the RCs together. So that heavy chunk before LRDI is something I would not prefer. So that's why I start with an RC, but not particularly all the RCs in one order. How I go about it is that my order attempt is one RC question, one RC basically with all its 4 or 5 questions, then two VA questions, then one RC question, then two VA questions. So how this helped me is that it breaks the monotony. I'm not going on reading an RC back to back, or I'm not exhausting all my VA questions so that I have to do an RC just before getting into the LRDI section. So that's my attempt order, one RC and two VA, and so on till I'm able to attempt or at least go through all the questions. Now RC is about eliminating the incorrect options. Many people have this misconception that after reading the the whole RC and then going to the questions, I should be able to get the answers, but not quite. RC is about eliminating the incorrect options tactically and then finding and marking the one which cannot be eliminated for all the different reasons that I'll be discussing forward. And that is exactly where the reasoning part of it pops in. Most of the aspirants, what they think and why they fear VRC is that it's an attempt, it's a test of English. Well, that's not quite true. VRC is also a test of your logic and your reasoning, just the format is a little different. So, what happens is when you are able to logically eliminate options, that is where your reasoning is coming in. Okay, so remember, this what appears to be correct in the first glance is mostly wrong. I mean, this is not a universal rule. That's what something I've learned through experience. That one of the options that might just seem perfect might have a glitch, a small detail which might be twisting it and making it a wrong answer. So that's very important. The attention to detail and the ability to eliminate options. So while attempting the RC, the first step is to recognize the central idea and the author's viewpoints on it. You don't have to memorize anything else. I mean, you don't have to assume anything while doing an RC. Doesn't matter how obvious. Don't use 1+1 if it is not mentioned in the paragraph, right? So the thing is, for example, if I'm talking about a sports RC, okay, and then there is an option in the RC. It's written, Ram plays cricket, football, and badminton, and the question has an option which says Ram plays cricket, football, badminton, and hockey. So you'll feel that yes, cricket, football, badminton, all of that is there in the RC. You might think that maybe hockey was mentioned, maybe I forgot that, and because a huge chunk of that option is matching with the uh, RC passage, you'll feel that it is correct. But no, you know, look at each and every word when you are solving the RC and don't assume anything, however obvious that might be. Right? Now we'll go forward and discuss the passage strategy in much more detail. In the meanwhile, if you have any doubts regarding RCs, feel free to comment in the YouTube or on the Unacademy chat. I'll be more than happy to take each and every doubt that you have and include that in this session. So I want that whoever is attending this session does not go with any kind of doubt regarding RCs and has a complete clarity. Okay. Okay, so let's deep dive into this even further. So basically, what has been my preparation strategy for RCs? So there are a couple of major problems that as an aspirant we face, right? So I've listed a couple of them that I have experienced, and also how to tackle them. Okay. So before getting into this strategy, I'd like to break one myth. The myth being that, to be able to crack the VRC section, you need to be an ardent reader. You need to be having a Tharurian kind of vocabulary, or only a certain segment of students can do it. But no, anyone and everyone who has been able to work on the elimination option skill can do this. It's not a test of English, as I said. I'm a person who did not study, who did not read a lot. I'm a person who has not read a single novel in my life. You know, I'm not a person who reads a lot of articles or who reads a lot of blogs or anything of that sort. No, and neither is my vocabulary very ornamental. So, on that note, let's get into this. First is the ability to retain, forgetting half the passage till I reach the questions. I feel this problem would be something a lot of you might be facing, right? So those in the Unacademy chat and the YouTube who are watching, just let me know that if these are the problems that you are facing, if these are something that you really want to have answered, and I'll deep dive into it right away, right? So those watching on the YouTube, can I have a comment of yes, you are watching, you are there, and have you been able to listen to and grasp whatever has been discussed so far? Okay, so let's move forward. As I said, one of the major challenges that the aspirants face while doing RCs is the ability to retain, and we tend to forget a lot of the information till we reach the questions. So my take on this is that you don't need to remember everything. Just the main idea and keywords from the passage is more than enough. If you have the central idea, if you have the flow of the passage in place, if you have, you know, uh, the tone of the passage, whether it's positive, negative, acquisitive, or it's interrogative, it's suggestive. If you can just get a tone of the passage with the main idea being discussed, and what are the keywords maybe from each of the paragraph or passage, so that is more than enough when you do the first read before going to the questions, right? Even after doing this, if you feel it's not getting enough, I will be now discussing a couple of methods to attempt an RC passage, and basically what are the pros and cons of each method. Okay. uh, there are three basic methods which people deploy to attempt the RCs. First is that you read the complete RC first, then you go to the questions. This is the most generally accepted strategy to attempt an RC, and this is good for various reasons. If you read the RC first and then go to the questions, you don't have any bias towards the passage. You're able to read with an open mind. You're able to gauge the complete idea in one go. You're able to make your own mental points regardless of what the examiner might be expecting from you in the questions. So, this is one method, that is first RC then questions, which worked pretty well for me, and that is what I would suggest most of you to go for in the normal RC section that we are targeting. Okay. The next approach is first reading the questions and then going to the RC. This is another decent approach with no evident cons of its own. But what this does is that the pros of this is that when you read the RC, you already have a certain idea of what this RC might be about, of from what viewpoint you have to read it. to be able to get the answers that are expected later on in the questions. So this kind of gives you a primer as when you read the RC and when you are able to when you're trying to solve it. So doing first reading the questions. Also, by reading the questions first, you'll get a fair deal of idea whether this RC is overall a difficult level RC or a medium level RC or an easy level RC, right? Because if the questions are direct factual, it becomes an easier RC. If the questions are a lot of inference based, or with very close options or something not something on the descriptive end, that is where the challenge comes in. So doing this will give you a primer for the RC. The problem with this method is that you'll have a bias. So when you read the RC, more than actually gauging the complete idea of the passage, or the main idea and the flow and the tone and the keywords that all I mentioned in the first method, you will instead be looking only for the keywords mentioned in the questions that you have read, and you'll have a bias. So with this, what will happen is that you will not be able to gauge the complete RC, and you'll end up searching the answers. So when there are inference based questions, so then what should happen is that uh, if there are inference based questions, then if you're following this method, it becomes a little difficult to answer because you have missed the complete idea. But if you are in crunch of time, if you feel that this RC is not particularly of your comfort zone, then this method works fine. Why? Because if you have, say, just 5 or 6 minutes and you are targeting, you have one RC left, you don't go read the complete RC and then go to the questions and solve it. No. You read the questions quickly, you scan through the RC very fast, try to find the keywords, and try to attempt even one or two questions from the given set. That is a way to maximize your score in the time crunch. So you need to understand how each method can be good or bad and where it can be used. That is why I'm trying to go into the details of every method and how that works out. The third method, which is mostly used in GMATs or TOEFLs probably because that's where I used it mostly. So going paragraph by paragraph and to the question. So basically, reading a paragraph, scanning if there is any question regarding that paragraph, then going to the next paragraph and repeating this exercise. So this is a third method that can be deployed while solving an RC. So this is very useful when the questions are mostly factual types. You might have maybe one or two questions out of four or five which are factual, but having more than that in one RC is a little being opportunistic or optimistic if I'm targeting that. So you have to go paragraph by paragraph to questions. Again, like the second method, this method can work if you are in a time crunch and if you see there are a couple of factual based questions. So this is even more efficient or effective when it comes to time crunch. Why? Because in the second method, you might see the questions and have to read the whole RC in the time crunch. Here, what you can do is go para to question, or question to para, whatever, and then uh, get the answers in the time crunch. So, briefly, these are the three methods. I've tried to cover all the pros and cons and where and when to use and how to use them. So, you need to see which one suits you the best and take that forward. Also, you need to be open to adapting to different methods as and how the situation commands. All the situations that can I can think of, I've tried to cover while explaining each of these attempt methods. Right. So now coming down to the second part, second major challenge which might be there, that is comprehending the theme or the main idea. So the key to this is active reading, right? So, what happens is that at times when we are reading the RC, we tend to lose focus, our mind tends to waver off, and it's just our eyes that are going through the words. We are not actually actively reading, we're not registering what is basically being talked about the whole RC. We are just reading the words standalone or the sentences standalone, but not a paragraph as a whole, not the passage as a whole. That is where active reading comes in. So again, in this, look at the options and try to differentiate between the main idea and secondary idea. This is as far as the questions are concerned, right? So when you have the complete RC read actively, you'll see a couple of themes being discussed at times. There'll be a main theme, there'll be subordinate themes, and sometimes author talks about secondary ideas more than the main theme. So you need to take care of that. And also, you need to ignore all the examples that might be uh, mentioned in the passage as examples, because examples are never the theme of the passage, right? Now, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post on the YouTube chat or the Unacademy chat, and then only we'll move forward. Okay, so Adesh is asking that scoring 30 marks continuously, should I drop the preparation? And with no job prospects as of now. Adesh, that is a difficult situation to be in, honestly. But you have exactly 1 month in hand. With the right approach, with the right preparation, with the right efforts, planning, execution, 1 month can actually work in your favor, believe me. If you go through the videos that I have done so far, the 2 sessions, including this one and the next 2 sessions, there'll be a lot of content on how you can prepare in the next 4 weeks, what should be the plan of action, and how you can crack it, how you can maximize your score, right? So, obviously, the decision at the end of the day is yours, but I think with 1 month, with the right trigger, anything is possible. Anyways, moving forward, third problem that aspirants face is that losing patience for uninteresting or too long passages. That is a very common thing. That is something that even the CAT paper setters know. That is why you'll see maybe every exam has at least one or two of such extremely long or complicated RCs wherein it's difficult to focus, to stay interested, to understand the flow or the main idea what is being talked about, right? So for this, I used to change to the second approach of RC that I discussed above. First question, then RC. My One of the things that I faced was the problem with the philosophical RCs, because understanding the complete flow in that is very difficult for me, and also at times the words used are quite complicated, without the knowledge of which it is difficult to comprehend the complete RC. So in that case, instead of leaving the complete RC, there can be two ends. One can be, I leave the complete RC. The second end can be, I just give in everything. I just give all my time, attention, focus, risk, everything on this RC to crack it. So in the exam situation, you need to be able to make a right balance between both of these ends that I just talked about. And how do you do that? When you know that this might not be your home ground, your comfort zone. So what you do is that you do the second approach. You go through the questions. You see if any of the questions are kind of factual. You see if there are some direct inferences, and then read the passage. Because in such long, uninteresting passages, it is difficult to read the complete passage without any context, without any goal. So once you have those questions in mind, you have a certain bias. That is where this bias actually works. It gives you a goal because till the time you find your keyword which is mentioned in the question or in the options, you will keep reading. So with that goal in mind, you will be able to, you know, make up for this balance that I was just talking about. You'll not have to leave it, neither you'll have to take a risk of attempting this complete passage in terms of marks and in terms of time that you're spending. So the second approach is what you need to deploy when it comes to long and uninteresting passages. What also goes into this is that attempt to detail questions and saving the negative markings will work in your favor. As I said, detailed questions, factual questions, those are the keys to maximize your score in these RCs. If the RC is very long, if you're not able to get the gist of it, the main idea, the subordinate ideas, and if you don't know the topic at all outside the exam either, so going for the inference based question will be a very big gamble in terms of time and your marks. So only attempt detailed questions and save yourself from negative marking by attempting the inference questions without actually understanding the whole passage. Right? So that is about the third point. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Okay, so one of the comments is how to find the tone of the passage about the subject we're not familiar with. Okay, and I'll comment on that. Apart from that, another comment is scoring 50 plus in VRC would fetch. If I just attempt all the RCs with high accuracy and 3 to 4 VA questions. Okay, so I'll be discussing all of that again, Purushottam. So first to tackle the question of Rancho, that how to find the tone of the passage about the subject that we're not familiar with, right? So what you can do in that case is that read the complete passage, look at the words that have been used in the most, like there are direction words which are there. So just try to just a second. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. So just try to identify those words, the themes basically, like if it is positive, negative, lot of questions. Is there something which is mentioned in the start of the passage and then being refuted or interrogated below? So Rancho, as I would say that there will be times when this you'll not be familiar with the topic. But again, if you have practiced a couple of mocks, uh, if you have practiced some RCs from different sources, the I think what I am saying will make sense to you, and you'll be able to move forward with that. Okay. So next up, it's Purushottam's question: scoring 50 plus in VRC would fetch, and all the RCs with high accuracy of 3 and 4 VA questions. So Purushottam, the thing is that you cannot say what is a good score, especially compared to last year and this year's format change. You don't know what a good score is. You have to target to maximize your score, and that is what this session is about: how to maximize your score in RCs. If you feel that you're uh, compromising on the attempts of VA and allocating that time to the RC questions because your RCs might be good, go ahead with that. That's a perfectly good strategy. So these are some pointers that I am sharing, which what I have done, what uh, is a little broader view on what can be done, right? So Purushottam, did I hope I answered both of your questions, and if not, kindly comment. Till then, I'll be discussing the fourth point, which is uh, a problematic point for most of the aspirants, right? The two option problem. VRC is about logical elimination, as I said in the very beginning of this session, and not about selection of correct answer. Analyze mocks well and see how you should have attempted a particular question, or how you should have eliminated a particular option, and try to develop that mindset. So basically, what you need to do in that for the two option dilemma is that, first of all, what is the two option dilemma for those who don't know what this name means? You are able to eliminate two of the options very obviously, and then you're stuck between two options. So, how to choose one of them is called the two option dilemma. Okay. Now, uh, with had you had more time in hand, I would have suggested a different strategy. But with 1 month, what I would suggest is that you go back to your mocks that you've given so far, or you can also try to do this strategy in the forthcoming mocks that you might be giving. Okay, analyze them well. Analyze every option, even if you have got the question correct. Once you do that, try to eliminate every particular option. Why that option is wrong? Is there some assumption that has been made which is not in the RC? Is there some data which is not there in the RC which has been talked about? Is there some is this the complete passage in a assertive tone, and is this option in the interrogative tone? So think from all the aspects and try to eliminate every particular option. That will take some time when you start with this. It might take even more than 2 hours for one VRC section analysis, but that's okay. Do that. That will really help you. If there are any questions, kindly post them. Otherwise, I'll be moving forward with the practice RC. Okay, so let's just move with the solve a practice RC. This is an RC which came in CAT 2019 in slot 1, that is the morning slot, which is the exam I gave. So I'll be discussing this RC in detail and how one can go about it, right? So let's see how to read, what to do. Okay, and just to give a heads up, I have not read this RC since my CAT day, so I'm solving this as good as a fresh RC. I've not prepared the answers or anything of that sort. I've not come pre-prepared for this RC. I'm doing with a fresh mind. So let's start. Let's start with first reading the passage and then go into the questions. That is what my approach has been. So that is what I will be deploying over here. So scientists recently discovered that emperor penguins, one of the Antarctica's most celebrated species, employ a particularly unusual technique for surviving the daily chill. Okay. As detailed in an article published today in the journal Biology Letters, the birds minimize heat loss by keeping the outer surface of their plumage below the temperature of the surrounding air. So now I know that emperor penguins are being talked about. I know that their methods of techniques of surviving in daily chill is being talked about. And one of the studies is giving me the yeah, and one of the studies is giving me that they minimize the heat loss by keeping the outer surface of their plumage below the temperature of the surrounding air. At the same time, penguins' thick plumage insulates their body and keeps it toasty. So now I have two methods that are being discussed over here. First is keeping the outer surface of their plumage below the temperature, and second is the thick plumage. Okay. Now I'll move to the next paragraph. This paragraph I've understood. In the next one, I have that researchers analyzed thermographic images, okay, taken over roughly a month in June 2008. So the timeline that has been given is June 2008 month, okay. During that period, the average temperature was 0.32 degree Fahrenheit, okay. And at the same time, the majority of the plumage covered the penguins' bodies was even colder. The surface of their warmest body part, their feet, was average this much. So warmest body part was their feet, was 1.76 degrees Fahrenheit. but the plumage on their heads, chest, and backs were this, and this degrees. So I have some data regarding heads, chest, and back. So now I know the temperatures and how they vary under different body parts. Perfect. So overall, nearly the entire outer surface of the penguins' bodies was below freezing point at all times, except for their eyes and beaks. So I know that these are not below the freezing temperature, and so are the feet are also not below the freezing temperature. Perfect. Now I know that the surface of penguins' bodies was below freezing temperature at all times. Okay. The scientists also use a computer simulation to determine how much heat loss was lost or gained from each part of the body, and discovered that by keeping the outer surface below the air temperature, the birds might paradoxically be able to draw a very slight amount of heat from air around them. Right? Um, okay. So, what have I been told over here? How much heat was lost or gained? Outer surface below air temperature, draw very slight amount of heat from air around them. Right? The key to their trick is the difference between the two types of transfers of heat, radiation and convection. So now two more terms are being defined over here, radiation and convection. Okay. So now I'm done with two paragraphs. I'll move forward. Um, Penguins do lose internal body heat to the surrounding air through thermal radiation. So I know that radiation and convection was being talked here. Now I can see that they lose internal body heat through thermal radiation, right? Just as our bodies do on a cold day. Perfect. Because their bodies, but do not surface plumage, are warmer than the surrounding air, heat gradually radiates outwards over time, moving from a warmer material to a colder one. That is how radiation works. That is what is being defined over here. Perfect. To maintain body temperature while losing heat, penguins, like all warm-blooded animals, rely on metabolism of food. So it says heat is being lost, but warm-blooded animals and as well as penguins rely on metabolism of food, and that is how they work. The penguins, though, have an additional strategy since their outer plumage is even colder than air. The simulation showed that they might gain back a little of this heat through thermal convection. So, I know in this paragraph the tone is changing. That first it is saying that the heat loss is through thermal radiation, and the second half of the paragraph I can see that the uh, thermal convection is getting the penguin the heat back through the plumage. Okay, so gain back a little of this heat through the thermal convection. The transfer of heat via the movement of a fluid. As the cold air, Antarctic air, cycles around their bodies, slightly warmer air comes in contact with the plumage and donates minute amount of heat back to the penguins. Then cycles away at a slightly colder temperature. So this is basically defining the process of how the heat is taken back from the air by the penguin through the plumage. Perfect. Next, what it says is most of this heat, the researchers note, probably doesn't make it all the way through the plumage and back to the penguins' bodies, but it could make a slight difference. So there's a little shift. Earlier, it was told that because of the plumage, they are staying warm, but here it says that the heat which is coming back might not reach the body altogether, but it can make a very slight difference. Okay, let's move forward. At the very least, the method by which a penguin's plumage wicks heat from the bitterly cold that surrounds it helps to cancel out some of the heat that's radiating from its interior. So what I know is that the heat coming from the plumage might not add to the body heat, but basically cancel out some of the heat that is going out due to radiation that was mentioned in the third paragraph. Perfect. And given the emperor's unusually demanding breeding cycle, every bit of warmth counts. Since penguins trek as far as 75 miles to the coast to breed, and male penguins don't eat anything during the incubation period of 64 days. conserving calories by giving up as little heat as possible is absolutely crucial. So the last line basically tells me why this complete topic is being discussed, why the body heat is important and where it goes, what is the pattern of losing the body heat, and a lot of other information. So I think we have kind of analyzed critically the complete passage. Now we'll be solving the questions which follow this. So the first question says, which of the following best explain the purpose of the word paradoxically as used by the author? So now I remember that paradoxically was somewhere over here. Um, I think in the second paragraph. Okay, here. This is where the paradoxically is written. So maybe my options are referencing from somewhere in this line. Okay, let's go back to the options. First option says keeping a part of their body colder helps penguin keep the bodies warmer. That was being talked about, right? Exterior was cold, interior was hot. Something of that kind of was being talked about. Second, heat loss through radiation happens despite the heat gain through convection. I think this paradoxically word came before the heat loss and uh, heat gain thing. So I don't think this option is correct because this was discussed later. So paradoxically should not include this part. Okay. Keeping their body colder helps penguin keep their plumage warmer. This is not directly inferred, but okay, I'll keep this option for now because colder and warmer, some paradox is discussed here. So let's see. Fourth option says heat gain through radiation happens despite the heat loss through the convection. Heat gain through radiation happens despite the heat loss through convection. Again, the radiation convection thing was not discussed so far. So I'll remove the option 4. Why I was able to remove these two options is because I was able to locate that paradoxically is written over here and I know what the flow of the passage has been. How and where the thermal radiation and convection are being discussed. So I've come down to two options. Okay, perfect. The passage, let's read the line in the passage, right? The birds might paradoxically be able to draw a very slight amount of heat from the air around them. Okay. So, isn't it a paradox that by keeping your outer surface cold, you're trying to draw slight amounts of heat from the air around your body? So, basically, option 1 is on those lines because that is talking about parts of my body, but option 3 tells me about body and plumage. I don't know if I can eliminate the plumage part as of now, right? But let's see. Um, the plumage being warm has been talked about up in this part of that is the first paragraph of this passage. And the two options that I eliminated, they were talked about in the third paragraph, which is after the complete paradoxical talk. And in the second paragraph, I don't see plumage being used uh, as it is being used in this uh, option. Penguins help keep their plumage warmer. So I feel that this again should not be the answer. And the answer for this question shall be option number 1. Keeping a part of their body colder helps penguin keeps the bodies warmer. Right? So now you should always try to find the answer from the context. If the author has used the term paradoxically with respect to outer surface temperature and drawing heat from the air around them, as we saw in this part, air around them, outer surface below the air temperature. So basically, since paradox is between two things, reading the part before that and after that would mostly give you the idea. So then the right answer must also have the same context. As I said, the options have to be perfectly correct, not a word here and there. So that is why option 1 seems to be the right answer. Next question. The last sentence of paragraph 3 refer to dash and dash respectively. So let's first read the last line of paragraph 3. See, as I've um, we have marked this, right? So, as the cold Antarctic air cycles around their body, slightly warmer air comes into contact with the plumage and donates minute amounts of heat back to the penguins, then cycles away at a slightly colder temperature. Perfect. So, slightly warmer air and a slightly colder temperature refer to dash and dash. Okay, so let's see. This question can be answered from the context as I just went back and saw the line and kind of understood what was being talked about, right? So it is already given that the sentence can be found in the paragraph 3, the last part. We had already marked that while we were reading it. So let's go through the context that was given. As the cold Antarctic air cycles around their body, slightly warmer air comes in contact with the plumage and donates minute amounts of heat. This is the sentence that we read. Okay. We know that cold Antarctic air's temperature is higher than the plumage. So the slightly warmer air as that comes in contact with the plumage has to be the Antarctic air. After all, the air is coming from outside. Okay. So let's just first understand the first blank refers to the slightly warmer air and the second blank refers to a slightly colder temperature. So let's see which options we can directly eliminate, right? Uh, Warmer air, okay, perfect. Hmm. If we remember, the last part of the third paragraph was talking about convection, wherein the heat is coming in. Okay, so warmer air has to be typically outside the body, and the colder air has to be the inside one. Let's see. So the first blank, as a slightly warmer air, should be talking about outside. That is what I have understood from the question so far. The air inside penguin's body kept warm because of metabolism. I don't think so. Here in this context, see definitely this option talks about the air inside penguin's body that kept warm because of metabolism. That is correct. But it is not from this line of this paragraph. It is not from this context. That is why even without reading the whole option, I can directly eliminate this. Because before going to the options, I knew that the warmer air has to talk about outside air. Second option, the cold Antarctic air whose temperature is higher than that of the plumage. Perfect. That seems perfectly in context. So I'll keep this option for now. Third is the air trapped in the plumage, which is warmer than the Antarctic air. Again, talking about the inside. Not correct. Fourth says the cold Antarctic air which becomes warmer because of the heat radiated out from the penguins' bodies. That is correct. See, Antarctic air was getting warmed by the heat radiated from penguin, but that was in the radiation part. Here, it is talking about the last part, that is the convection part of that paragraph. So again, we are not talking about the air being warmed by the Antarctic uh, penguins' heats, right? So simply by eliminating just looking at the first blank, understanding the context, understanding what this is talking about, I was able to eliminate the three options and arrive to the answer. But before marking, I'll still confirm whether the second part is in line with what should go in the second blank, or is there any other option that I need to look for. So the second is a slightly colder temperature that should be inside the plumage, inside the body, somewhere inside the penguin's complete system. So that tells about the foreign temperature of Antarctic air after it has transmitted some heat to the plumage. Perfect. I know that the plumage is taking the heat, which is leaving the outside air colder than it was when it came to the penguin. So that is absolutely fine. So hence my option 2 is the answer. Third question. Which of the following can be responsible for emperor penguin losing body heat? So just go through, just think about it. From the passage that you might remember, what could have been the reason? Okay, so the four options are reproduction process, thermal convection, food metabolism, and plumage. Okay, it says losing body heat. Now, from the passage, I remember that radiation was the cause of losing and convection was the cause of getting heat. So, convection is definitely wrong. Also, I know food metabolism was about generating body heat and not losing body heat, right? So, even that is not perfectly fine. Um, Plumage, I'm not sure. In some part, it was said that it is hotter or colder. In the convection part, it was saying that it was taking heat, but I'm not sure about that option. So I'll keep option 1 and 4 for now and see how I can arrive to the final answer. We know that the plumage is responsible for maintaining the body heat. It is the central idea of the passage. Food metabolism to help generate heat. The passage says that clearly. We are left with two choices, thermal convection and reproduction process. But the passage says that thermal convection helps in gaining heat. So thus these three are out. So as I said, these two I discussed how they are getting eliminated. And if I have to remove one from either of these, either I can directly select option 1 owing to the last part where I marked why this heat is being talked about, how we are losing heat apart from radiation. So I know that reproduction process is causing the losing body heat, but it's always best to confirm that yes, all the other options are perfectly wrong and then go ahead. So choice 1 can be inferred from the following lines, and given the emperor's usually demanding breeding cycle, every bit of warmth counts. So hence I know plumage is not the answer and reproduction process is the primary source of penguins losing their body heat. I hope that is clear. Let's talk about the last question. Okay. The fourth and the last question for this particular passage was all of the following, if true, would negate the finding of study reported in the passage except. Now, this question requires you to understand the passage thoroughly, get the complete flow, get the complete context, get the complete idea. Basically, you should know the passage in and out to be able to precisely answer this question. Okay, so let's talk about it. All of the following, if true, would negate this except. So I need to find an option which would not negate the findings of the study reported. Okay, let's see. So the average air temperature recorded during the month of June in the area of study was -10. Okay. So I remember marking June over here when I know the average temperature was 0.32. So now had that been -10, all of these numbers would be warmer, relatively warmer than that, meaning that there is no difference in the outside and inside body temperature, meaning that plumage wood is actually not working for the maintaining of body temperature. Only because this temperature is lower than this temperature and higher than these temperatures does the maintaining of outside inside comes into picture. So I think the first option would negate the complete finding. Okay, let's keep it at hold. That's what I think. The average temperature of feet of the penguins in month was found to be 2.76. Again, coming to the same line. Instead of 1.76, if it was 2.76, I don't see it making any difference because it is still higher than 0.32 and rest of the numbers being same. I don't think there's any difference. Had they said it was 0.16, then it would have been different. But instead of 1.76, if it's 2.76, I don't think that's negating the thing at all. So I think option 2 could be our potential answer, but I can't see unless I've eliminated the other options. The temperature of plumage on the penguin's heads, chest and back were found to be this and this. Again, all the three if you see are more than 0.32. So those again would indicate that there is no maintaining of temperature by the plumage, and all of this that we talked about was of no use particularly. So 1 and 3 are on the same lines, and I think both of them are wrong. Let's see. The penguins' plumage were made of a material that did not allow any heat transfer through convection or radiation. If the material was made so that there was no convection radiation, the complete idea would be lost, right? It would negate the findings, because the findings say that it is losing it through radiation or gaining it through convection, or maintaining the temperature and all. So this is completely against the passage idea. Hence, I feel from all the given options, 2 is the best fit and the best answer. Let's have a quick look at the explanation that is given. The passage says that the outer air temperature is warmer than the plumage temperature, but if the outer air temperature becomes colder than the plumage temperature, the author argument would be invalidated. That's what I said. The feet and the other body parts were being compared, and that was the outer temperature was between them. That is why the maintaining was going on. That is basically how option 1 and 3 were eliminated by me, right? Since we have to mark the option that is not okay, so as option 1 says, this would be completely invalidated. So option 1 seems wrong, right? Since we have to mark the option that is not invalidating, option 1 is out. Similarly, as I said, option 3 was on the same line. In the option 1, the outside temperature was changed. In the option 3, the body part temperatures were changed, again making them fall in the same category. So option 3 is out as well. Taking choice 4, the thermal convection helps the penguin get some heat. As I said, if it were not for convection and radiation, there would be no losing or gaining of heat through the body, and plumage would not come in use. So the main idea would have been faltered because of that. Hence, by option elimination, the answer should be option number 2. I hope I was able to give a very, very detailed thought process, a walk through my thought, basically how I thought, what all I thought about, how I eliminated the options. That is how you need to do it. You need to read the RC, you need to understand the flow. In the paradoxical question, we saw that what was being discussed before that, after that, and kind of gauge the context. So with all of this, we are kind of coming to the end of the session. So one last trick, which might not be very useful with just 1 month in hand, but if you can pull it off. Many people also face an issue of speed while reading the RC. So if that is the case, try to hold your breath and read it, because the speed usually goes down when you are you're verbling internally, right? You're trying to lips the same thing that you're reading. So try to read internally, and if you're holding your breath, that will stop your sub vocalization. The main reason for reducing speed by reading RCs. So what you do is just take a breath, stop it, read a line or two, leave the breath, stop it, read a line or two, take the breath, stop it. But again, this comes with a lot of practice. So if you think you cannot do that in this 1 month, don't try this. Because with this, the scores might initially fall, and that is not what you want right now. You want the confidence that yes, you can do this section. You want the confidence that yes, you can eliminate, yes, you can do it, yes, you can read it. I hope today's session was really insightful as far as the RCs are concerned. I tried to discuss all the possible ways to attempt an RC, all the pros and cons, for all the challenges that the aspirants face, be it the main idea, speed of reading, patience, two option problem. I also gave a detailed insight as to how I think while solving an RC. And all in all, if you have any questions, do tune in to the next session. That will mostly be on coming Saturday. at same time, and there I'll be discussing the VA part in detail. So until then, bye bye. I take your leave, and if you have any doubts,